Hey everyone, so today I thought I would share with you one of my family's favorite jelly recipes. This is fireweed jelly, and I'm here with one flower because I was walking, and as I was walking I saw something in my peripheral vision, and there's a moose on our property with twin calves, and so I decided I'd come back and we'll record the intro here, and then I'll show you some of the fields in a little while because I'm not going to go get between that moose and her baby. So, fireweed jelly is super easy to make, and you can make blossom jelly out of a lot of different kinds of flower blossoms. Like here in Alaska we do the fireweed. You can also do like a wild rose blossom jelly, and I've made dandelion jelly. Dandelions grow everywhere. So if you are inclined to make a flower or blossom jelly, you might do some research for your area and find some wildflowers that you can also make jelly out of, because the process is the same. But this is one of our family's favorites. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to picking it, and then I'll show you how to make it here in a minute. Okay, so you're going to need something to put them in. So I like a plastic bag because they are blossoms. They tend to blow away and they're hard to pick up if you spill them. So I just keep this on my arm. But the fireweed, so when you pick this, you've got all these little stems, and then you've got the blossoms. And what you're making it out of is just the blossoms. So when I pick, personally, I just pick off the blossom, just that piece. I leave the stem on, and this is all you want, just the petals, and you can have the stamen and stuff in there. But you don't want, you don't want this stem piece, because the stem actually is bitter. So if you add this to your jelly, like when you're boiling it down to get the flavor out of the petals, this stem will give you a bitter flavor in your jelly, and you don't want that. So some people just take and they like run their hands up, pull the blossoms off, go home and clean it. I actually would prefer being outside, so I always just stand here and pick the blossoms off and then take them home, and by the time I get home, they're all done. I don't have to do anything with them. I don't have to clean them. I mean, I still have to wash them and stuff, but I don't have to clean them as far as like pulling the stems off and things like that. And these fireweed are nice because this is going to grow farther up here. There's going to be a lot more blossoms. So I'm picking off what's there, and then they'll keep blossoming out, and then they'll have blossoms for the bees and stuff. But so that's how you pick fireweed, and it takes about 6 to 8 cups. I guess it depends on how potent you want it, but anyway, I usually use closer to 8, sometimes 9 cups, and I'm going to go pick till my bag is full, and then I am going to make some jelly. So I'll get back with you then. Okay, so we're going to get going making this fireweed jelly, but first a couple things. So you're going to need a canning pot. Okay, the next thing is jars, and mine are 1 cup jars, and then there's these small mouth lid ones. I can't think what they are, and then the wide mouth lid ones, and it doesn't matter, you can use both kinds. And you're going to want to wash those, and then I haven't put my water in here, but I run this as hot as I can get it. And I wash my jars, and then I put them in here and just leave them here until I'm ready to put the jelly in them, just to keep them really hot so that the hot jelly doesn't break them. Okay, you're also going to need bands to fit the jars. So obviously I need the wide mouth bands for some of those jars, and then the narrow bands for some of them. And then you're going to need these lids, the rubber brand new lids, so that you know they're going to seal. And these I put in water and I heat them up just before I'm getting ready to can everything, just to the point where this water is starting to boil, just to soften that rubber a little bit, and it helps them seal, and it's always worked for me, so I use that. So So those are the things that you're going to need for canning. So we'll move on to making jelly. Okay, so one other thing, before you get started washing your fireweed, you're going to want a pot that's big enough to hold, you're going to want 1 gallon to 1.5 gallon pot, just to hold your juice and your blossoms while you cook them. So don't forget the pot. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is measure how many petals or blossoms we have. So we have our big bag, and you're not packing these in there, you're just kind of lightly tossing them in, something like that. So there's 1. 9. It's going to be somewhere around 10 in my bag. We'll call that 10. But we want every last one of them, so now I'm going to take these and I'm just going to rinse them off just in case there's any dirt or anything on them, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so now the blossoms have been rinsed and we're going to put them in the pan, and you need, this worked out really good with 10 cups because you need about 60 to 65% water in cups as compared to cups. So 10 cups, you're going to need about 6 to 6.5 cups of water. If you do, if you have 8 cups, it's going to be 4.5, 4 3/4, something like that. But dump these in your pot, and then we'll put our water in. And you're going to need a little bit of lemon juice, and that one has okay, so 6.5 cups of water. So I'm going to get approximately 6 to 6.5 cups of jelly with this water. Alright, let me move this forward so you can see. 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice. So, and it can be just canned. I'm just using the lemon juice that comes out of the jar. And so dump that in. And we're going to just boil this for about 10 minutes. It doesn't, I'm going to start it on high, but you don't have to keep it on high. But you can see that as we boil it, the petals are going to lose their color. It's all going to go into the liquid. So. Alright, so once it comes to a pretty good boil, which is almost there, I'm going to turn the heat down, and that's when I'm going to start the timer. You want it to stay boiling above a simmer, but not like hard active boiling. It doesn't need to be like really hard to cook it. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn down to about a medium, maybe just below a medium, and I'm going to keep stirring once in a while and set my timer for 10 minutes. Alright, so this is almost done boiling, and as you can see, the flowers are basically completely lost their color. The smell in here, it smells like fireweed. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you do this with other things like dandelion. I can't remember when I make dandelion jelly if it smells like dandelion, but I love the smell of this liquid cooking. So it's kind of fun to smell it and fill the house with that smell. My kids love it too. So there's my timer. So we're gonna turn this off, and then we're going to drain this. I'll show you what I got. Hold on. Okay, so I have 2 bowls here because one is gonna fill up, but you don't wanna be pressing on these petals when I dump them in, or your jelly will be cloudy. And if that doesn't bother you, you can press on them. But I'm gonna let mine drain. So it's gonna drain from one. I'm going to put the majority of the liquid in this one, and then I'm going to pull this strainer out and put it in the other bowl. So look at, and then you can also see, you make sure you get all the pieces out, because that makes a difference. They all hold liquid. So now that that's out, we're going to let it drain here for a minute. Like I said, I don't like to push on mine because it's going to make it really cloudy, but there is a fair amount of liquid and it will drain most of it. But it takes a little bit of time. Okay, transfer that to the other one. And now I'm just going to leave that and walk away for about, 20 minutes or so. But isn't that a beautiful color? It's that beautiful purple like the fireweed that we were out picking. So a couple things you need to do while this one is draining is we're going to wash the pan, because we're going to put the jelly back into that pan. And also, if you haven't turned on your boiler, your canner, the hot water bath canner, you want to turn that on and get that water heating, because you don't want to have the hot jars with hot jelly and put them in cold water. They will break. So, and then get your sugar out, get something to put your sugar in because you're going to need it. Oh, pectin. So we have Sure Gel. This works great. I use it all the time. We also have this stuff. It works great. I use it all the time. It doesn't really matter which one you use. The one thing I do like about this one is that you can measure out how much ever you need, as compared to this one is there's usually some pretty specific directions and you don't want to vary from that. You don't want to have too much liquid or a different amount of sugar or whatever. This one gives you a little bit more options as far as like adding another tablespoon or whatever, because you're measuring it rather than pre-measured. So both of them work great. It doesn't really matter which one you use, but I'm going to be using this one because I'm not totally on the recipe for using just one box of Sure Gel. So this is the one I'm going to use because I can measure it, but either one is fine. And so I'm going to let this stuff drain and wash my pan out, and we'll continue on with the recipe. Okay, so we've been letting this drain, and really quick before I take that one off, because I need somewhere to put that, I'm going to just measure. I'm going to spill on my counter. Make a really big mess. So there's 4 cups. Pour that in my pot. And this still has a little residue, but not a lot in there. And there's a little bit more, and now we'll take this off, and actually that did not drain hardly anything. So that's good that it got most of the way drained. So we've got 5.5 cups of liquid now in our pot. Let me clean up and move you over here. Okay, so I have my measured pectin, and I have 5.5 cups of liquid, and I'm going to use 6 tablespoons of pectin. Every recipe, they don't have a recipe for, on ball for fireweed jelly. So this is kind of an average between a lot of the jelly recipes I've found. It was basically approximately a tablespoon per how much juice you have. So I'm going to try it. We're going to find out if it'll work. So I've got my pectin, and I'm going to put that in. And then the other thing that I have measured out is my sugar, but I'm not putting my sugar in yet. You got to bring this up to a boil first. And before you bring this to a boil, so I'm just going to mix in my pectin really quick. And you're going to want just a little tiny bit of butter. Like little tiny bit of butter. This just keeps it from foaming so much. It still foams a little bit, but not like it does if you don't use it. So I'm going to turn this on high, warm this up to a boil, and while I'm warming this up, I'm also going to just warm my lids up just to a really low heat. And again, I have my water bath canner heating as well. And I have my sugar already pre-measured, and this is 6 cups, so I did the same amount of sugar as I did pectin. So Again, there's like not a recipe per se, but this has always, you know, kind of worked. We'll find out. Every year is different. Every year I'm like, what did I do last time? We're gonna go with this time, and we'll see if it works. So then we'll know if we need to increase, decrease, whatever. But we're gonna heat this up to boiling, and then we add the sugar all at once into the pot. And this, especially once you add your sugar, you're going to stand here and stir this the whole time. So just make sure that you have a spoon long enough and possibly a hot pad or a glove or something to wear along with it, because sometimes it can get hot because you're going to leave it on high the whole time boiling. So just be aware that it can get hot. And it's not necessarily hot coming out of here as much as the heat coming off of the burners and your hand being off to the side or your arm or something, so just be aware. Alright, so one thing you'll note is the lids back here are getting, there's lots of bubbles. It's starting to bubble once in a while. So the whole goal in these lids is just to get them warm. You want everything pretty warm. The rings aren't going to be hot. But everything, and that actually you can put them in your sink with your jars. But I don't want these to really boil. I just want them to warm up and just stay warm. So once they get hot and probably just about a minute more, before it actually starts boiling, I'm going to turn those off, and then they'll just stay hot until I'm ready to use them. Okay, so this is starting to boil, and at this point we can add in our sugar. And like I said, we're going to dump this all at once, so make sure you have a good grip on your bowl. And then just dump all your sugar in, and then just start stirring. Now at this point in time, you don't want to walk away, you don't want to stop stirring. You want to keep it all going. And now we're going to heat this to a rolling boil, and then boil for 1 minute. But it's going to take a few minutes to get back to that point. That sugar's not necessarily hot. It's kind of cooled down our liquid. A couple things that you're going to need when this is all done cooking is a ladle, and if you have one, a jar, what is it called, funnel, just for making the jars easier to fill. You don't necessarily have to have the funnel, but you just got to realize that you got to be really careful. This is screaming hot liquid, and so you don't want to pour that on your hand, and the funnel really makes a difference there. But I did fill lots of jars over the years without the funnel, but it makes the job a lot easier. So a funnel and a ladle. Okay, so we're getting to the point where we're almost to a rolling boil. One thing just to mention is that you need to have a timer that's fairly accurate. Like my oven timer, I need to push the timer button a second time after I set it so it will start ticking down. It says, so the directions in the Sure-Del and all of those is boil for 1 minute exactly, once it's reached the rolling boil stage. So some people may start it here, I don't know, but when you get it started, make sure that either your cell phone or something will measure for 1 minute exactly as much as possible. So rolling boil is when it can't be stirred down. This to me is getting close, but that's probably pretty much there. So we'll set the timer for 1 minute. Actually, I don't know if that's totally there. I'm gonna wait just about a minute more. Okay, we're gonna go with that. Sometimes I set it 2 or 3 times and I'm like, well, is it there? Is it not? I don't know, but we're gonna call that good. So this one didn't like puff out too much more, thank goodness. Here's my 1 minute timer. I'm gonna go just like a couple seconds more. I don't know why, but okay. So that is made. Okay, so let me scoot us back here. Oh, another nice thing to have is this. It's a can. You know, you pick up the cans with it. It's nice to have when you're getting them out of the boiler, or out of the water bath canner. Okay, let me scoot us back. Okay, so for this part, you're going to want to have a hot pad or something you can put on your hand while you're filling the jars because, sorry, it's really dirty, because that is going to be scorching hot. So, I like to put my funnel into a bowl just because it's going to come out dirty, and then the ladle just stays in here while we work. And make sure you have your lids close by. And I have more jars than I think I'm going to need. It's a good idea to wash more than you think you need, because sometimes you need more than you think. So, if you get a canning funnel, there's a little ridge in there, and that's about where I fill my jellies. Now you're going to want to take a wet, or not wet, but damp washcloth and wipe off the rim. And then grab your lid, and they should have cooled off a little bit, but hopefully not too much. And then just finger tight, you don't want to be too tight, and then this can go directly into the canner. Okay, so always, or it seems like always, there is a little bit, oops, I don't want to take that glove off yet, a little bit left over, but usually not enough for a jar. So I just take that bowl. This is my kids' favorite thing, because in a couple hours, this is going to cool off, and they're going to eat all of it. So that's just my little extra just for the kids to eat. So let me show you the canner. Okay, so in the canner, we have, whoops, turn it off, I want to turn it up. We have all of our jars, and I'm going to really quickly use some gloves. This is probably going to be hot. I'm actually going to make sure these are kind of where I want them here. Kind of like that. Now I'm going to just set this down in. Just let the handles sink in. And whoops, except for on that one jar that it's knocking over. Maybe I'll adjust that jar over. This is where these little, this jar thing works really well. Anyway, we just want to make sure the lid will close, and that jar is tipped. Still tipped. I don't know if it matters, but it bothers me. Okay, so they're all upright. We're just going to put the lid on and bring this to a boil, and we're going to boil these for 10 minutes with the lid on. Once it starts to boil, we can turn the heat down just to maintain a boil, but we don't need it to be such a hard boil. But you do need to keep it boiling. So we'll give this a few minutes to heat up, and then we'll hopefully be able to boil it about 10 minutes, and then I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so that's done boiling. We're going to take these out. I'm not going to lift up that rack because it's hot. Ooh, I almost dropped the jar. Maybe I will lift up the rack. Anyway, you're going to put it out on a towel. Don't tip them, don't mess with them, just set them out here. Don't touch them, don't poke the little pop top because it can mess up the seal. You're going to leave them sitting here for the next 24 hours. Without touching them, without bothering them. And then whatever has not sealed after 24 hours, then you either need to try resealing it or you can just eat it. That's always my family's favorite option. Oops, that one tipped. All right, there it is. Okay, so it's been 24 hours since we made our jelly, and you can see we've got 8 jars of jelly, and I've removed the rings around my jars. I do that and then I kind of pull on it so that I can make sure that it's completely sealed. If it pops off, it's not sealed. Sometimes, even though the top is pushed down, like pulled down, as soon as you remove the ring, it'll pop off. So just check and make sure. I actually don't store my stuff with the rings on. I just keep these upstairs where it's drier. I've noticed that when I leave them on, they'll corrode a little bit faster. So I just try not to do that. Remember, I was unsure of whether or not it would set up. So it's not like totally set up, but it's good enough for spreading on peanut butter. Here's the bowl. You can see it's a little bit liquidy. So if you do the exact same amount as I did, you're going to want to add just a little bit more pectin. I would say another tablespoon. However, I'm going to put on my website the recipe with the smaller quantities and just 1 box of sugar gel. So you can follow that recipe too. I just happen to have a lot of thyroid, so I just increase it. They say not to increase it because it sometimes won't set, but I think sometimes it's just that I don't get enough sugar gel in it or pectin in it, whatever you're going to use. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you look around in your area and find out what kind of wildflowers or even other flowers. I don't know for sure, but I've heard that lilacs can be used as well. It's something to research. Anyway, look around and see what you have and try making some flower petal jelly. It's really, really good. hope you enjoyed this.